Hi friends! Recently I got out my acrylic paints and had some fun creating this fun piece of pattern paper and then turned it into this. I'm really excited to show you how it came together. Now, if you want to create a piece of pattern paper like this as well, pop over to my shorts tab where I show you exactly how to do this. It is super easy and really quick. The most time consuming bit is probably the drying time, which wasn't that long really. Now, I didn't know when I created this piece of pattern paper what I was going to do with it. I put the question out over on Instagram and TikTok and mostly got suggestions for a layout. So that is what I've created today. I am using my metal ruler just to tear up some strips of pattern paper, and I'm doing different thicknesses, and I want to have kind of like a torn edge on the side where you see a little bit of the white card texture kind of peeking through on the edge. I was really tempted to use the whole sheet that I'd created, but thought with so much colour and texture in the background, it could potentially take away from the photo and any extra embellishments I add. So I wanted to break that up with a little bit of white space. So I'm going to be spacing these paper strips with a bit of white in between, and to add some extra interest, I've created these border punch strips, which I'm going to tuck in so that that pretty little lacy border is layered on top of the pretty colourful textured paper. I feel that breaks up the pattern paper nicely. However, you can still see the continuity of that acrylic textured detail in the background. The finished layout is A4 size, that's approximately 8 inches by 12 inches, and I've used an extra sheet of plain white card as my base so that I can layer all these strips on top, just so that my finished layout is the correct size. As far as the sizes of all the strips, I don't have any specific sizes. I'm just winging it and cutting the pieces the size that I feel that they should be. So I do trim off any excess edges and just kind of tuck and fit the pieces together until I feel it looks right. With so much detail and texture in the background, I've opted for a black and white photo so that it really pops up off of those lovely colours. And I've got a set of embellishments from Doodlebug, and it's filled with tabs and tags and beautiful florals, and I'm just picking out the colours that coordinate with the background paper. And I've also got a few die cut flowers that I've created using my Sizzix Big Shot. I had those in my stash that I'd created for another layout, and they were just leftovers. So you can see that yellow and orange flower, I've layered 2 different size flowers on top of each other and put a little gem in the middle, and I feel that that ties in nicely and adds some extra interest as well to the page. Now I've got a lovely set of 3 stamps. These are Vicky Bouton stamps from one of her previous collections, and I am just stamping all 3 sizes onto some white cardstock so that I can have some of these black and white images peeking through, just to kind of break up the colour and to add some lovely contrast. I do love adding a little bit of black and white contrast to lots of colour, and so I'm just tucking those in. I'm not going to use all of the stamped impressions, I'm just going to use a few and just kind of tucking them in to peek out here and there. It's also handy if you're only going to be seeing half of the floral to cut it in half, and that way you've got 2 flowers instead of just 1. I can be quite indecisive about where I like things positioned sometimes, so it's quite nice to spend a little bit of time fiddling and finding the right spot for everything. So I do this for a little while until I'm happy with where everything is positioned. I have this lovely acrylic piece from Bramble Fox, and it says lots of love, and it is perfect for this photo. My hubby and I were off on a date night. We live very far away from our family, with our family all living in South Africa and us living in Scotland. So date nights are few and far between. So my mum-in-law was visiting recently and she had the kids for the night, so we got to go out, which was lovely. So I really want to document this memory, and lots of love was the perfect sentiment for it. Now, to add some extra sentiments, I've pulled out a variety of different phrase stamps, and I've got 2 ink pads, a pink and a yellow ink pad. Both of these are from scrapbook.com, and I am going to kind of emulate all the colors that are in that background paper, and I'm just going to stamp up the side of each of one of those white strips. So I'm starting with pink and then when I want to create the orange, I do stamp a little bit of yellow onto the stamp and then gently tap it onto the pink to kind of mix the colors together. I always start with a yellow first when I'm doubling up on colors, just so that I don't add the darker color onto the lighter ink pad. However, if you look closely, you'll see some of my stamp impressions are not very clean, and that was because, without realizing it, I didn't clean my stamps before I put them away, and then I've just stamped them in the ink. So some of the black ink from my previous creation with them is coming through, but I'm not too worried. It's not ruined the layout, so I'm just carrying on. Now I've taken a piece of vellum and I'm just tearing it so that it can frame my photo. I really wanted something subtle around the edges, and I like the torn edge effect just for some extra texture. And I'm just taking some extra strips of vellum just to add an extra strip to either side of the photo, and I feel that's really, really subtle but has some nice visual texture. Along with the subtle title, I feel that these elements add something to the layout without detracting from the beautiful colors in the background, but also allow the photo to shine. Now, these little floral pieces, I'm just kind of lifting up the edges and stuck them all down with some liquid adhesive so that they don't fall off. And now I'm just going to be sticking down this perspective from Bramble Fox. I did accidentally break it previously, but thankfully it's got kind of that plastic that's over it and that's held it together, and it's not a problem really, because once it's glued down, you're not even going to notice where it's broken. So I'm just sticking that down in position, making sure it's nice and straight. I like having it slightly overlapping the photo just so that they're connected. And now I have that little floral piece that I've just stuck down now, and I played with it for a while to see where it should go, and I eventually decided to stick it on top of one of the Doodlebug ephemera pieces, and I feel it adds nice extra texture and interest. I've got these lovely little, they're not sequins, but they plastic-like sequins, and they the exact same colors as the background, so, and they're little flower shapes, so they tie in so nicely, and I'm just dotting those around for some extra size and just a different material to add visual interest to the page. Whenever I'm creating a layout, I always think, oh, what else can I add? It feels like there's something missing, and I can spend ages on this part of a layout just trying to add in the extra bits just to make it feel complete. And I love adding all those extra little details, and one of them was these little white hearts. I love that in the pack there's 3 different sizes. I love having a variety of sizes within a little cluster, and I'm just dotting them around in a few different places around my photo just to kind of draw the eye to that central point, the main focus, which is my photo. Once again, I'm using my liquid adhesive. This is the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, which I absolutely love, and it's going to ensure that they stay stuck onto the card. I want to add the date, so I'm going to just punch a tab out of some plain white card and stamp the date on it. It's going to tuck in on the left side of my photo. So I'm going to use some pink ink to tie in with the background, just keeping the tone on tone theme going. Once I've tucked it in, I decide I don't like the date format that I've used, so I pick out another stamp and I stamp it down, and then it sticks out a bit too far, so I'm going to trim it down a little bit so I can tuck it in a little bit further behind the photo, because I've obviously glued it down already, so I'm limited as to how far I can push it in. And there, I'm happy with that. And now I'm going to move on. Now I've got these lovely pops of color that I'm going to be adding in. Again, it's just an iridescent glitter, so it's going to be very, very subtle, and I'm just adding those around mostly to the little clusters of white hearts that I've already stuck down, and just kind of building on those little embellishment clusters. And that is my layout complete. Thank you so very much for watching. You can also find me over on Instagram and my newly created TikTok account at Handmade Happy by Monique. I will, as always, list the supplies I've used down in the description box. A lot of this is from my stash that I've had for quite a long time, but so much of what I've created you can create with whatever you have in your own stash. I would love to hear from you. Please drop me a comment in the comment box below, and if you've enjoyed watching this, I'd be so grateful if you liked and subscribed my channel too. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!